Hello everyone. So in the last lecture what we have seen is what is the history of nanomaterials, and we have also studied several examples, okay, like Lycurgus cup, and Damascus blade, okay, and many more examples like that. And we also come to know that the nanotechnology was already there before several centuries ago. However, the people who are doing this job, they are not aware that it is because of nano effect. But once we are with uh, very high resolution microscopes and with very powerful techniques in our hand, recently we realize that the origin behind the properties of these oldest materials is because of nanomaterials. Okay, so now we have a full timeline about the nanotechnology, okay, from 4th century to recent technology. And I will not say that the history of nanotechnology is complete yet, because in future many more examples will emerge from this nanotechnology, okay, because this nanotechnology and nanoscience is still under development, okay, so it is not yet saturated, so we are not aware about many things about what is happening at the nanoscale, okay, so many new things will emerge with time in future also. Now in this lecture we are going to see about a wonder element, carbon, okay, and this is very interesting and very important material in material science, because now you will understand how nanotechnology is really making a change, okay, in nanomaterials, okay. So you will understand in this lecture how carbon is important in nanomaterial. So let us try to understand what is carbon. So carbon is a basic element of life. Wherever you go, uh, it is full of carbon, okay. Carbon is special because of its ability to bond to many elements in many different ways. So this is very important, okay. This atom carbon has ability to bond to many elements in many different ways. So it depends upon the carbon, it depends upon the size of that material, it depends upon uh, the process by which you are making this material. Depending upon several conditions, carbon may change its bonding with the neighboring atom. Even though it is a carbon, it is same, but it may behave differently at different atoms, for different atoms. So it is it is the fourth most abundant element in the universe. Okay, so as far as the abundancy is concerned, okay, it is the fourth most abundant element in the universe. It means you have a huge amount of carbon in the universe, and you need not to worry about the availability of carbon. You will easily get carbon in the universe. The most known types of carbon materials are diamond, graphite, okay. So this diamond and graphite, you can take it as a bulk material for carbon bulk materials, and full rings carbon nanotubes, okay. These are graphene. So these are nano based carbon materials, okay, or carbon nanomaterials, okay. So, as far as the diamond and graphites are concerned, you all are aware about these two materials. Okay, okay. So you can see, even though both are in the bulk material, both are, the size is big. huh? The size is big, so I say it is a bulk material. Even though both are bulk material, even though both the materials are made up of carbon, but depending upon the bonding with the carbon atom, the structure, the crystal structure with which the atoms of carbons they arrange together and form a material, all these matters, uh, all these matters or all these will definitely define the properties of the material. All these matter whether the material become conducting or insulating. So it will define the properties of the material. Well, let's try to understand. So in the diamond, as you can see in the image, okay, you all like diamond definitely, because they are most expensive, okay, in the world, huh? Because they are very beautiful and you can use it in the ornaments. Okay, so they are very precious. Okay, so in case of diamond, the bonding between the carbon is sp3. This is a type of a bonding between the two carbon atoms. Okay, however, if the bonding just change by sp3 to sp2, you can see the entire material looks differently. Okay, and now you have a graphite which is very cheap, okay, and it is not costly, it is very cheap, nobody wants it. On the other hand, diamond want everybody, even a small piece of diamond everybody like, but even a big piece of graphite is nobody like. Okay, so if you see, if the type of bonding has got changed, the entire material has got changed, the properties of the material has got changed. So for example, in case of diamond, the chemical bonding is purely covalent. So this is a covalent bonding, highly symmetrical unit cell, okay, because it is a cube, so it is symmetric in all x, y and z direction. It is symmetric in all direction. Extremely hard. Diamond is well known for its hardness. Okay, if you see the carpenter, and if somebody is trying to cut the glass, he use a pen, and the nip of the pen is made with this very tiny uh, stone, like which is like a diamond. Okay, so it can cut the glass. Okay, so it is a well known for its hardness. Low electrical conductivity. It is no more electrical conducting. We are not able to flow the electrons even if we apply a very high external voltage. It has a high thermal conductivity. It has a superior thermal conductivity. See, this is a very interesting behavior. Okay, generally in the materials, if electrical conductivity is good, then its thermal conductivity is also good. For example, copper. If you take a wire of copper, it can conduct good electricity as well as good amount of heat can transfer from one point to another point. And that's why you also studied this thermal conductivity experiment in your BSc, and where basically you use a rod of copper, because it is a good conductor of heat, but it is also good conductor of electricity. But what it is opposite in the diamond. In diamond is electrically insulator, but it is a thermally conductor. Okay, so please keep this in mind. It is optically transparent. So you see this, it looks like a glass. So glass is optically transparent. You can see what is there on the other side of the glass, because it is transparent, you are able to see it. Likewise, the diamond is also transparent. It is used in industrial grinding, machining and cutting. So wherever you want hard tools to cut something, to shape something, to grind something, then you have to use it in industry. Okay. Now on the other hand, if you take graphite, where the bonding between the two carbon atom is sp2, what happens? Now it is no more covalent bond. The bond has got changed. Now it has a layered structure with strong bonding within the planar layers, and the bonding is weak because there is a van der Waals bonding between the layers. Van der Waals force of attraction is there between the two layers, and it is very weak. Okay, so it has a layered structure. In each layer, the carbon atoms are arranged in a hexagonal lattice. Okay, so if you take if you see in the image, there are 3 carbon layers. The topmost and bottom, the lowest bottom layer, you can see there is a 3 hexagons of carbon, and the middle layer there is a single hexagon of carbon. Okay, so in each layer the carbon atoms are arranged in a hexagonal lattice with separation of 0.142 nanometer. So this is a lattice parameter for this layered structure. Okay, because this is the distance between the two atoms is 0.142 nanometer. This is the distance between the two carbon atoms in hexagon. However, the distance between the two planes is 0.335 nanometer. So you can imagine how small is this distance. Easy interplanar cleavage, applications as a lubricant and for writing. The pencil, you all are aware about the pencil. Okay, from our childhood till yet I am using pencil, you are using pencil. So it is a very wonderful application for this graphite. Because why we choose this for pencil? Because it is a very smooth. On a piece of paper, you just write something, immediately the graphite started to float on the paper. So it is very, in that sense, it is a lubricant. You can also use as a lubricant because it is a very soft material. So soft materials are used for lubricants. It is a good electrical conductor. As far as electrical conductivity is concerned, I'm sorry. As far as electrical conductivity is concerned, the electrons can flow through this graphite and it can work as a conducting wire. It is a chemically stable even at high temperature. Okay, so it is a stable for high temperature also. It has an excellent thermal shock resistance. Okay, so these are the properties of the graphite. Now why I am discussing this graphite and diamond? Because please keep in mind, we are interested in the properties of the material. We are interested in the size of the material. As far as size of the material is concerned, both these diamond and graphite, they are treated as bulk. They are treated as bulk materials. Okay? Bulk material. Bulk material means the size will be anything above 100 nanometer, not below anything about 100 nanometer. Okay? It will be in micrometer, it will be in centimeter, it will be in millimeter. Okay? It will be anything, but it is not in the nanoscale region. Now see, the same carbon is there. Now we are here, we are again discussing the same carbon atom, but now you can see, depending upon their size and arrangement and bonding between the carbon atoms, there are 3 types of carbon nanomaterials. Okay. The first is a graphene. So graphene is a one atom thick planar sheet of bonded carbon atoms that are densely packed in a honeycomb crystal lattice. It is a single sheet of carbon atoms. Okay, what is the thickness of this sheet? Ideally, we treat the thickness is 1 atom thick. It is ideally. Okay, so if you have a 1 atom thick planar sheet of carbon, then we have to call it as a graphene sheet. Okay, and for its discovery, there is a scientist has got a Nobel Prize in 2010. Another interesting material, carbon at nanoscale, is fullerene or buckyball. Okay, here again the element is same, atom is same, carbon is there, but now its shape is changed. Okay, so bonding has got changed, and because of this we call this as a fullerene. The next material is single walled carbon nanotube. Okay, or it is also called as a bucky tube. Like fullerene we call as a buckyball. For single carbon nanotube we also call as a bucky tube. Okay, so you can see the hexagonal arrangement of carbon is there again. Okay, but now you have a you don't have a sheet like a graphene. Now that suppose that sheet is rolled to make a tube, then we have to call this as a single walled carbon nanotube, because here there is only one tube which is, and the wall of the tube is made with only 1 atom thick of carbon layer. So we call this as a single walled carbon nanotube. If there is one more, then we call it as a 2 walled carbon nanotube. Likewise, if there are number of walls are there, then we call this as a multi-walled carbon nanotube. So just for simplicity, we make 2 parts for carbon nanotubes. One is a single walled carbon nanotube, and if there is more than one tube is available, then directly we call this as a multi-walled carbon nanotube. In this slide, we are basically trying to understand what is the historical background for these carbon nanomaterials, specifically for fullerene. Okay, so this is very interesting story for you to understand how the research is sometimes accidentally gives you better results. Okay, for example, the carbon nanotubes, the short form is CNTs, were discovered in 1991. This is already I discussed in the history of nanotechnology, and I mentioned there that the carbon nanotubes were discovered in 1991 by Sumio Iijima from Japan. This is already mentioned in the history of the carbon nanotubes. So this was discovered. When it is discovered? It is discovered during high resolution transmission electron microscopy observation of soot generated from the electrical discharge between 2 carbon electrodes. Okay, the discovery was accidental. We call that the discovery for carbon nanotube is accidental, although it would not have been possible without Iijima's excellent microscopic skills and expertise. So the person who discovered carbon nanotubes is Sumio Iijima. He is from basically Japan. Iijima was expert in handling the microscopes. Okay, especially transmission, high resolution transmission electron microscopes. So he was expert to observe the things using this microscopy. Okay, so what happens, he did an experiment where there was 2 graphite electrodes are there, and these 2 graphite electrodes are separated with a particular distance, and this all arrangement is did in a evacuated tube, okay, glass tube, where there is no air is inside, okay. And once you start to increase the voltage across the electrodes, then after some voltage, particular voltage, there is a spark is generated between the two graphite atoms, two graphite rods. And when the spark is generated, there is some material is get deposited on the wall of the tube. Once you collect that material, then you think that I have prepared this nanomaterial. So this was what he did by the Iijima. What Iijima was in fact studying were C60 molecule, okay, which is also known as the Buckminster fullerene. So Iijima was basically interested to prepare in C60 molecule is nothing but the fullerene, is nothing but the buckyball. All is same. C60 molecule is also called as a buckyball, is also called as fullerene. So basically he is interested to prepare the C60 molecule, that is fullerene, which is previously discovered by Harold Kroto and Richard Smalley during the year 1970s. So 1970s, I already discussed this again in the history of nanomaterial, that in the 1970 Kroto and Smalley, both the scientists, have prepared the C60 molecule, that is fullerene, and for that they also got Nobel Prize. And this Iijima from Japan is also interested to prepare C60 molecule using their technique. Now Kroto and Smalley found that under the right arc discharge condition, carbon atoms would self-assemble spontaneously into molecules of specific shapes, such as C60 molecule. Okay, so Kroto and Smalley, whatever they use the arc discharge is the way by which they prepare this nanomaterial. So this arc discharge experiment has several conditions. Okay, what is the vacuum inside, what is the distance between the two electrodes, how much is the voltage we are applying. Okay, so all these, what is the shape of these electrodes, so all these conditions will matter on the synthesis of your nanomaterial. So when Kroto and Smalley did that experiment, they got C60 molecule. But when Iijima did the same experiment, he expected that he also is getting C60 molecule. Okay, so but maybe he decided to change several conditions, experimental conditions, and he wanted to check what is happening, what material I am getting. So he may have tuned different conditions, and what he discovered, Iijima discovered, under different experimental conditions, carbon atoms can instead self-assemble into carbon nanotubes. It means Iijima is saying that if you exactly keep the conditions which are followed by Kroto and Smalley, you will get C60 molecule. But if you change it a bit in the upper side or lower side, if you change something, then what you are getting is not C60 molecule, what you will get is carbon nanotube. Okay, so this is very important discovery by Sumio Iijima, because suppose you and me are doing this experiment and we are expecting that we should get C60 molecule, but we don't get C60 molecule. We think that we have did something wrong, and we think that our experiment was wrong, our conditions are wrong, material what we have got is different, we are not interested in that. But no, Iijima has very seriously, passionately looked at the material, and he realized that every time I did the experiment, I am getting this type of structure. So this is a different different allotrope of carbon. So this is the way by which the accidental thing happens, because he was not expected, he was not preparing the carbon nanotubes. Accidentally he got the carbon nanotubes. Okay. So this is the interesting historical background about carbon nanotubes, which is prepared by Sumio Ichima. So we'll see a bit about a fullerene and carbon nanotube in the next two slides. Just an introductory slide. I'm not going into the details. We are going in the details when we are looking at the properties of nanomaterials in the next semester. Okay, there we will try to understand how the properties of this material get changed. So the fullerene is the reference to a family of carbon allotropes, molecules composed by entirely of carbon in the form of allosphere. Okay. I'm sorry, my voice is not that clear. I'm sorry for that. So spherical fullerenes are also called as buckyballs. This I already told you. The another name for fullerene is buckyball. Another name is C60. All these are same basically a bit. Mixture of sp2 and sp3 hybridized system. Now bonding in the fullerene is not a single bonding is there, because it is a prepared in the form of a ball. Both type of bonding is there, sp2 and sp3, and cylindrical ones are called as carbon nanotubes or buckyballs. Sorry, bucky tubes. So graphene is an example of planar fullerene sheet which is only sp2 hybridized. So in graphene there is only one type of bonding is present, sp2 hybridization, but in case of fullerene there are two types of bondings are present. So fullerene is concerned, so you can see carbon atoms arranged in a pentagons and hexagons. Okay, so if you carefully see the structure of the fullerene, which is shown in the at the right hand side image, there is a ball, football kind of thing, and right to that ball there is a structure for fullerene. So if you see there carefully, then you can see that there are also pentagons and hexagon. It is a mixture of pentagon and hexagon. The structure of C60 is a truncated icosahedron which resembles a saucer ball. Okay, it is similar to saucer ball of the type made of 20 hexagons and 12 pentagons. So there are 20 hexagons are available and 12 pentagons are available, with a carbon atom at the vertices of each polygon and a bond along each polygon edge. Sorry. Okay, the nucleus to nucleus diameter of a C60 molecule is about 0.7 nanometer. Okay, so in the image just below and middle of this slide, you can see there is a fullerene cage, and second one there is a fullerene electron cloud. So if you take two atoms of the carbon which are exactly opposite to each other on the ball, so the distance between the two carbon atoms, nucleus to nucleus, okay, the distance between the two carbon atom, what it will represent? It will represent the diameter of C60 molecule. So diameter of C60 molecule in that sense is 0.7 nanometer. Okay, but it is not like that. It is not like that, because when the atoms are coming together, okay, the electrons, the electron cloud around the atoms, they started to overlap on each other, and because of that, you know, when the atom they come together at a certain distance, there is a force of attraction, and after a certain distance there is a force of repulsion. So they have to attain a specific distance where they stabilize each other. Okay, so the van der Waals diameter, so in that case if we count all these things, not nucleus to nucleus, if we also think about the cloud of the atoms and the forces between the atoms together, then we call a different term which is called as a van der Waals diameter. So van der Waals diameter of C60 molecule is 1 nanometer. Okay. So van der Waals diameter of C60 molecule is 1 nanometer. Okay. So experimentally, if you want to measure the diameter of a C60 molecule, it will be 1 nanometer. But theoretically, if you want to exactly measure it, then it will be 0.7 nanometer. Okay. A very interesting image is shown on the left corner, left lower corner of this slide. You can see the two bottles. One is filled with C60 molecules in a liquid. Okay, this is a colloidal solution of C60 molecule. And on the right hand side, there is another bottle which is showing you a colloidal solution of C70 molecules. Okay, very interesting. Okay, see, C60 molecule means the molecule which is made with 60 atoms of carbon. So we call this as a C60 molecule. If you prepare a fullerene which has 70 carbon atoms, okay, then we call that fullerene as a C70. We call that fullerene as a C70. See, even only 10 carbon atoms are different. There is a difference in the color of the solution. Okay, the C60 molecule has some pinkish shade, reddish shade is there, but C70 is brownish reddish, dark reddish. Okay, so what you can see is, now you have C60 molecule, C70 molecule, which are nothing but fullerene, which are basically nanomaterials, even though they are made with carbon, they have different colors. Okay, so the person who was not aware about the nanotechnology, you ask that person what is the color of carbon. You ask your parents, you ask your friends who are not aware about the nanotechnology, then everybody will answer that carbon is black. Carbon is black. What we have seen up to now is carbon is black. But the expert who is expert in nanotechnology, he will say carbon have different colors. I can make carbon, blue carbon, red carbon, yellow carbon. I can tune the color of the carbon with different colors. Okay, so this is the beauty of nanomaterials, specially prepared with carbon. Another very important material we already discussed is carbon nanotube. We are just trying to understand at introductory level. So it is a hexagonal shaped arrangement of carbon atoms that have been rolled in a long and hollow tube structure. Okay, long hollow tube of hexagonal carbon is nothing but carbon nanotube. Its diameter is less than 1 to 5 nanometer. It will be anything, but the diameter is in the range of 1 to 5 nanometer. Length of the tube will be few nanometer to millimeter. Okay, so this is a case of one-dimensional material, where both x and y, they are at the nanoscale, and z can be anything. So carbon nanotube is an example of one-dimensional nanomaterial. What do you think? Fullerene is an example of, yes, guess. Fullerene is an example of zero-dimensional material. Fullerene is an example of zero-dimensional material because it is a small ball, okay, where all x, y, z, they are in the nanoscale. So fullerene comes under the category of zero-dimensional material, and carbon nanotube comes under the category of one-dimensional material. The individual nanotubes naturally align themselves into ropes held together by van der Waals forces. Now, it has observed by the experimental uh, scientist, scientist, scientist observe experimentally that making a single carbon nanotube is very hard, because when you prepare a single carbon nanotube, with that tube there are many more different single carbon nanotubes are there. And when they form a rope, because there is a van der Waals force of attraction between them. Okay, so they looks like a rope. A broad range of electrical, thermal, structural properties depends on the diameter, length, and chirality, etc. So the properties of this carbon nanotube depends upon diameter. What is the diameter of the tube? What is the length of the tube? And there is a one more term which is called as a chirality. Okay, so this is a, just try to think that chirality is belongs to symmetry about the neighboring carbon atoms. Okay, so right now I am not going in the details of chirality. We are trying to understand if the chirality in the next semester, that if the chirality is different, how the properties of especially electrical conductivity of carbon nanotube is, how electrical conductivity of carbon nanotube is changing, that we will see. But right now just think that the chirality is just indicating the symmetry about the neighboring carbon atoms along the axis of the tube. This is very important. See, 1000 times better electrical conductivity than copper. So for us, the best electrical conductor, okay, which is also cheap, abundantly available, is copper. Okay, but when we go to the nanomaterials, we realize that, okay, in nano world, carbon nanotubes have 1000 times better electrical conductivity than copper. Now, how it is possible? Again, I will say that this we will understand in the next semester. Okay, I will prove that how carbon nanotube is able to conduct 1000 times better than copper. That we will discuss in the next semester. Transport heat twice as good as diamond. Diamond was a good heat conductor, but this carbon nanotube is better heat conductor than diamond. The tensile strength is 20 times higher than that of steel, and still it is flexible. Okay, it is its strength is 20 times higher than steel. See the wonders of carbon nanomaterials. Okay, at the same time it is 20 times harder than steel, and at the same time it is flexible. How it is possible? So it is possible only at the nanoscale. So as I said, there are two basic types of carbon nanotubes. One is single walled carbon nanotube, okay, and second is multi-walled carbon nanotube. Both images are shown. Both the type of carbon nanotubes are shown in the images. The single carbon nanotube is also called as SWCNT. Multi-walled carbon nanotube is also called as MWCNT. So single walled carbon nanotube is a 1 atomic thick single walled carbon nanotube. It is 1 atomic thick. The ends of the tubes can be closed by two halves of fullerene molecule. Suppose you take a fullerene molecule, okay, like a saucer ball, you cut it from the middle and take the half part and join to the one end of the carbon nanotube. Take the second part and join the another end of the tube. So the end can be closed by the two halves of fullerene molecule. It is a basic building block of MWCNT. Okay, so MWCNT is made with multiple single walled carbon nanotube. Okay, so when single walled carbon nanotubes, they arrange themselves upon each other. Okay, so one carbon nanotube is inside, another carbon nanotube is outside, one more carbon nanotube is outside that, then you call this as a, it is the formation of MWCNT. There are number of, in MWCNT there are number of concentric tubes. It is not one, more than one tubes are available inside a tube. Each MWCNT contains 2 to 50 coaxial tube, minimum 2, maximum it can go up to 50. The distance between the neighboring tube is 0.34 to 0.36 nanometer. Distance between the two tubes, the inside tube and outside tube. What is the distance between the two tubes? So it is 0.34 to 0.36 nanometer. This is what we can go up to the accuracy. The inner diameter of MWCNT is 1.5 to 50 nanometer, and outer diameter can go up to 2 to 25 nanometer. Okay, so these are the ranges with which you are able to prepare these carbon nanotubes. So as far as these carbon nanotubes are concerned, just as a summary, you can see that the CNT classification, as I said, I am showing you 3 types of nanotubes here. Basically there are 2 types, only single walled and multi walled. But when single walls carbon nanotubes are coming together, then as I said, there is a formation of rope, because there is a van der Waals force of attraction between the single walled carbon nanotubes. They come together and form a rope. Okay, so but we don't count it as a different category. It is nothing but assembly or bundle of single walled carbon nanotube. Okay, so extreme left side you can see single walled carbon nanotube. Okay, the middle part you can see the rope of single walled nanotubes. Even in the TM image you can see there is a phase where you can clearly see there are multiple single walled carbon nanotubes, they are together. And extreme right side you can see there is an example of multi-walled carbon nanotubes. I have taken this image, TM image from Chin et al. Is the name of scientist, and he has published his work in nanotechnology is the name of the journal. Okay, and he has published the volume is 20. He has published it in 2009. The page number is 285307. If you open this paper and you look at the paper, you will find this image. The beauty of this image is you can see the steps, the most inner walled carbon nanotube you can see. Okay, and as you are from the tip, as you are coming in the upper side, you can see there are multiple steps are observed. Okay, so each step is representing that. Each step is representing that new carbon carbon nanotube is there on the outer part. Okay, so this can be a multi-walled carbon nanotube. Okay. Okay, so we'll stop here. In the next lecture, we will see some what is composite, what is nanocomposite, kind of things. Okay. Thank you.